Hello, Taylor. Taylor, are you there?
Oh, hi.
Hi, Taylor.
Hi.
Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that we're connected, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, it's almost 1 o'clock, guys. So we'll start in a couple minutes, okay? Can you see my screen here that says Zoom session announcements for on Canvas? Okay, good. Right now is the rush hour to log in, so I'll be admitting people. When you log in, it's a two-step process. You have to type in your meeting number, and then you have
She's
to,
in 3 of mine.
huh? Sorry?
Oh, might be.
And you have to type in a passcode. After you type in the passcode, Zoom puts you in a waiting room. And then you have to wait until I admit you, but I'll admit you pretty instantaneously as it comes up. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm admitting students as they enter their passcode and wait. But you guys can hear me and see the Canvas screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, we're getting up to almost a majority now. A quorum, as they call it sometimes. Today's session will be a short session, about a 45-minute session. If I go over, please raise your hand and stop me, okay? Because I know you have other things to do. You have other Zoom meetings and so on. Okay, yeah, it's 1 now. So here's our agenda. You saw this announcement. And these office hours are flexible in the sense that if you need to see me on Zoom, you can send me an email and we can set it up for an individual meeting. I know that you may have conflicts for some of these times here. And if it's imperative that you need to chat with me, we can set up a separate meeting and that should work out fine. Okay, a few more admits. Some of you have recently enrolled in the class, so you're getting up to speed on Canvas, WebAssign, and StatCrunch. Okay. Apparently, the library did not keep track of who got StatCrunch. And so supplies ran out, students were shifting classes, and so she's trying to get all that organized. If you don't have StatCrunch or WebAssign yet, please contact her directly, and let me show you that announcement where I've indicated her contact info. Let's see. It's one of these announcements here. Let's open this one and see what it says. Yes, here it is. Here's all the info that you need. So Mrs. Rohrer, Sylvia Rohrer, in the library can be reached at either her email. I think that's how she would prefer it. if you send her an email here. So go to your announcements list and open this particular announcement. And all of her contact information is there. In WebAssign, I have a record of who's enrolled. And I think I gave you some contact info for WebAssign support in case you had a problem getting your login verified and up and running. Okay, so I may be able to help you, but I'm the last resort, okay? Your first responder would be WebAssign support, and here's their phone number here. WebAssign is a big enterprise. They should be open 24/7 if you have any issues in getting your credentials logged in. And that's important because that's where your homework portal is on WebAssign. And remember, that's a big chunk of your final grade, isn't it? It's a third of your final grade, okay? And then StatCrunch also has a support number if you need to call them about getting logged in, right? So they're always helpful. And then, as I said, I'm your last resort. If you contact me, I'll try and help you as well, okay? All right, any questions about WebAssign or StatCrunch? All right, and WebAssign is the key piece there. You'll see that StatCrunch will be valuable for you. It'll be like your statistics calculator on steroids. It really does a very nice job of calculations, graphing, spreadsheets, and even you can create documents using StatCrunch. You can copy and paste right from StatCrunch right into your documents. When I say documents, I mean your exams. I'll allow you to use StatCrunch to solve your problems in StatCrunch, and then you'll have to copy and paste the results right into your exam, okay? For your exams, I won't accept any scanning. So your exam will be posted on Canvas. You'll download it, work it out in your word processor with StatCrunch, and then within the time limit specified by Canvas, you'll then be able to go ahead and upload it to Canvas as a document, as a Word document or as a PDF document, okay? Now, what I'll try and do before the exam is give you a study exam, and it'll have problems like the ones that will appear on your midterm and your final. So we'll have two drills. We'll have the pre-exam for your midterm, and we'll see how that goes. We'll work out the details in working it out in your word processor, copying, pasting your results from StatCrunch, saving your document, and then uploading it to Canvas in time to meet the deadline. So we'll have a test or a pre-exam, and so you'll be confident that you can do that for your exam that counts for 100 points of your grade. Okay. The midterm and the final exam are each worth 100 points. Okay. Now, someone asked me about the modules and where is the content, because when you click on these, there's nothing, right? So it refers back to your textbook. And here's your textbook. And where is the link to this textbook, right? Okay. The link to this textbook is given in your syllabus, isn't it? We went over that last week when we had our Zoom session, and you saw the link to your your text. And the good news is your text is free, right? Okay, which is nice, right? And when you read this page here about your textbook, they will tell you how much money that they saved students. Can anybody guess how much money all students have saved in using this platform? Somebody give me a hello? Okay,
A lot.
a lot. Millions, billions, trillions. $1.5 billion.
Wow.
Okay, because you know, when you go to college and you look at the cost of textbooks, it runs into the hundreds of dollars, doesn't it? Okay, so here we have a very nice text, and let's look at the table of contents here, and you'll see that the table of contents follows exactly our list of topics in the modules. Okay, so here you have the table of contents. You click on any one of these topics and it will take you right into a discussion, all right, with exercises. The exercises are, some of the exercises are worked out right here in your textbook. Okay. So this first example is determine what the key terms refer to in the following study. We want to know the average, mean amount of money first-year college students spend at ABC College on school supplies that do not include books. We randomly surveyed 100 first-year students at the college, and 3 students spent $150, $200, and $225 respectively. Okay, so what are some of the key terms there that you see? Anybody volunteer? Go for it. Justin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, what are key terms, do you think, in this particular problem?
The average mean.
The mean? Yes.
I mean,
Mean, or the average amount of money that the students spend on school supplies. What is another term here that you see that might be considered a key term? Shall we call on a different student here? Okay. Any other? Let's see. We have Mika. Mika, are you there?
Yeah,
Okay. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Mika?
yeah, that's right.
Okay. Do you see any other terms in here that might be a key in solving this problem?
In the 1.1.
Yes.
Sorry, what did the first person say? My volume wasn't working.
He mentioned the mean amount or the average amount.
Okay, I think that the cost that it says at the end of the sentence, the 150, 200, and 225.
Yeah, those are good. Those are the sample means, right? Okay, so these are some means of students, 3 students. So that's another key idea, is the sample itself. Good. Okay. All right. Okay. So the parameter is a statistical quantity based on the population. Now, some of you have already read this chapter, and you know the population is the totality, right? And if you define a mean for the population, what you define is a parameter. But typically, we don't have the population. All we have is a sample. Like up here, we know that 3 families spent 150, 200, and 225. So that's the sample. Now, if we took the average of those 3 numbers, we would get what's called a statistic, because it's based on the sample and not the population. So typically we don't have the parameter. We don't have the mean of the population. So we use a statistic to estimate it. Okay. All right. We know what the sample is. The sample is just the 3 families that were questioned as to what they spent. And the variable is the amount of money that they spent. Okay. And then the data would be values of the variable, and their aggregate would be what we would call the sample. Okay. All right. And for this list here, we could, okay, here the population is all students who graduated from the college last year. Okay. The study at the local college analyzed average cumulative GPAs of students who graduated last year. And so the population is just all the students who graduated, right? And the cumulative GPA of one student would be a statistic, right? Sorry, here it would be the F would refer to the population, okay? All students would refer to who attended the college last year, right? And looks like we're not using that one there. And the statistic here is the average, okay, is the average cumulative GPA who graduated from the college last year, all right? So that would be like a sample, okay? And then here, the parameter would be the, let's see, did I say that wrong? In the college last year. G is the study based on the students who graduated last year. And the study doesn't contain everybody, does it? It just contains a sample, okay? All right, and then the sample might be considered these 4 numbers here. That's just a subset of the entire population, right? And then the variable, of course, is the GPA. That's what we're measuring there. So that's the variable. And then finally, the data. The data is C here, this data here. Okay. And the sample is a group of students, okay, who were randomly selected. So here are some values of that variable. And the sample would be the group of students who were randomly selected. And typically the samples can be quite large, all right? Okay, any questions about this study here? Okay, all right, so.
Professor Torres.
Yes,
So all of this is going to be linked to the textbook, or it's on the syllabus. When will this all be due?
well, you can go at your own pace. But let's go back to the syllabus and take a look at that. Okay, so here is the here is your ideal rate of study, or your own pace. In the first 3 weeks here, and we're already in week 2, right? This is our second week, isn't it? Okay. So after next week, you should have read these 3 chapters, at least the module, the submodules that I've listed in your module page here. So again, here's your module. Okay, these are the 3 topics that you need to read in the book. Okay, so that's why I mentioned you should have already read this first one here. Okay, this first module, you should be looking at or have read parts of the second module here. And these topics here, as I said, are taken straight out of your textbook here. So when you say, well, what should I be doing in the first week of class? These are exactly the topics that you should be reading out of your textbook. Okay. And in order to reinforce your understanding of these readings, you should be doing your WebAssign homework at the same time. Those problems in WebAssign are exactly the problems that I've assigned to you, and you'll be graded in WebAssign on those problems. So, you know, you're really, in this course, you're going to be asked to read and perform homework on your own. And in office hours, in chat meetings, in Zoom sessions, you can ask me questions about these problems or any topics that you're reading, and we can go over some of these examples. But remember, your class here, according to the high school, is set up as what they call an asynchronous class. That is, you'll be relying on Canvas to know what your assignments are and what your WebAssign assignments are, and you'll be doing that, you know, at home. Let's go to WebAssign now, okay? And here's the WebAssign page, and I believe that most of you now have received your WebAssign access code, okay, which allows you to sign in, and it'll take you to your homework. Okay. All right, 23 of you have already signed up for WebAssign. There are 35 students in the class, so about a third of you have not signed in yet. Now, what did I tell you about, can you all see this WebAssign page now? Yes? No?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And, you know, what I'm doing is I'm keeping tabs on you over here as to what your progress is. So when I open up your score view, then I'll see immediately what percentage of work you've done and what your grades are for those assignments. Okay. And remember that in WebAssign, you have several resources. Okay. In your page here, you'll see a number of helpful keys to help you solve these problems. Okay. Now, the other part of this is that I'm not insisting that you do this homework and turn it in before a deadline. Your deadline is going to be the end of the semester. Okay? Some of you may finish this off before the semester ends. And the other extreme is that you haven't done any of it until the final few weeks. That's the danger zone, right? You want to stay on top of this. And so that's why I'm going to be keeping tabs on your assignments to see that you're doing it in a timely fashion, and you don't let it snowball on you until the very end of the class. Okay? I know you have other deadlines that you're working against. So most of the instructors that use WebAssign will give you the entire semester to complete all these. So you can start chapter 1, jump into chapter 2 without completing chapter 1, and so on. So you can bounce around in here and go ahead and do your reading assignments in order, and then do your homework somewhat in order, but you can jump around here, okay? But please don't neglect doing this, and I'll be in the background following your progress to raise any red flags if need be, okay? So I've introduced you to your text here. I've introduced you to WebAssign, all right? And StatCrunch is the other piece of the puzzle. So StatCrunch, when you sign into StatCrunch using your login credentials, you'll see StatCrunch here, all right? Okay, let's go ahead and demonstrate just a tiny bit of StatCrunch here. So we're going to take the data from this first example here that we just took, that we just looked at. Okay. All right, so let's go down to our GPA data. Okay. All right, and we have a sample of these 4 GPA values. This is our data, right? This is our sample, let's say. Pretty small sample size, but we can go ahead and let me give you a quick introduction to StatCrunch here. Can you all see the StatCrunch spreadsheet here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, so what I'm going to do is type in my 4 values of GPA and calculate the average GPA of those 4 values. Now remember from your reading, the average is the sum of all the data in your sample divided out by the number of data points in your sample. So let's go ahead. I'm going to title this first column where it says variable 1 GPA. And then I'm going to type in these 4 values, 3.65, 2.8, 1.5, and 3.9. Okay, so here's my sample data consisting of these 4 data points. And now I want to take their average. Okay, so I'm going to choose the super function, I'll call it stat. And I'll choose in this list, this pop-up list, I'll mouse over summary stats. And now another pop-up window comes up over here on the right, and I'm going to choose columns. And now in this action window, let's call it, you see the column GPA that I've listed here in the first column. And what I'm going to do is to calculate the mean. So you see this gray window here on the left. I'll highlight mean, and then on the right, you see the mean appear. Okay? And there are a number of statistics that you can calculate from the sample. Let's calculate the median. So I'm going to press the command key on my keyboard and hit median here, and notice that the median will be calculated. And what other one do we want to calculate? Let's calculate the mode. Oops, I forgot to hit control command before I did that. So let me go back and do this, median and mean. Okay, and now let's compute those statistics for our 4 data values there. All right, here's the mode. There is no mode. The mode is the most frequently occurring data point in the sample, and there is no data point in here which is repeated, so there is no mode. The mean is simply the sum of all these, okay? And let's go back and calculate the sum. So I click on options, I hit edit, and then I think we can calculate the sum here. Let's do that. So I'll hit command sum, and there the sum now appears on the right. I'll recompute, and here's our new summary here with the sum. So if we add up these 4 GPAs, divide by n, which is the sample size, right? We get the sum, which is 11.85. And then if we divide by the sample size, we get the average or the mean. So if you divide 11.85, everybody take out their calculators, okay? Here's your calculator, all right? And I'm gonna type in 11.85. I'll divide that by 4, which is the sample size, and I get the 2.9625, right? You all see that? 2.9625. So as I said, StatCrunch is your spreadsheet. It's like Excel, it's like Google Sheets, and you can type in a column of data, which is your sample typically, and then you can perform summary stats. Okay, how did we do summary stats again? We went to the stat super function up here above the spreadsheet. We chose summary stats. We chose columns because our data is in columns. We chose GPA, and then we selected whichever statistic that we wanted to calculate, the sample size, the mean, the variance, the median, and other statistics that we would want to calculate, okay? All right, is there any other statistic that you can think about here? Some of you have read, and some of you know what the standard deviation is, okay? And all of these definitions of your statistics are given to you in your textbook. So when you go back into your text, you will see in chapter 2 a whole list of statistics here. And you can also plot graphs of your statistics or of your data in StatCrunch, such as box plots. Okay, let me demonstrate what a box plot is in StatCrunch. I'll hide this result here, and I'll go to graph, and I'll come down to what is known as a box plot. And you'll see why it's called a box plot. If you haven't read chapter 2 yet, this might be your first look at a box plot. So let's take a look at it. So we're going to take a box plot of that column of GPAs. So we'll select a GPA here. We'll mark off the mean and the median in the plot. Okay. I'll use a basic color scheme, and you can use other color schemes here to, make it look more inviting. Okay, I'm going to use the basic color scheme here. Now, you will have to label the x-axis here, and the x-axis is GPA scores, or just GPAs. Let's call it just GPA. All right. And in a box plot, there really is no y-axis label. Okay. So here now, okay, we'll compute. And here you see a graph. And in this graph, we've denoted the median in red here, which is 3.225. Remember from our results? Let me go back to the StatCrunch element up here. I'm calling these superfunction. And let me go ahead and show you what the results were. Okay. Did you all see how I got back this summary statistics box? I went to the StatCrunch superfunction, which is the leftmost function here. I went to results, and I picked out the result that I wanted to display here. These are the results that we calculated for our GPA column. All right. And we calculated our mean to be, let's start with our median. Our median to be 3.225, right? That's the red line here. This is 3.225. And if you mouse over the line, you'll see the values pop up. And let's mouse over the green line, which is the mean. And you see the mean is the 2.9625. I've labeled my x-axis GPA here, okay? And guess what this lower limit is? Well, it's the min of our data. If I mouse over that whisker, which is this line at the bottom of the box plot, you see the lower limit, which is the min, and that's 1.5, okay? And then the upper whisker here, so-called whisker, is the max, and that's the upper limit, 3.9, right? If you look at your data again, here, you see the maximum is 3.9, the minimum is 1.5. We've already calculated the mean and the median, and you see those displayed here, okay? And then the Qs, the Q1 and the Q3 are called the quartiles. Q1 is the first quartile, that's the 25th percentile. Q3 is the third quartile, which is the 75th percentile. And those are marked off. When you read this, when you read chapter 2, you'll get a very nice explanation of the box plot. What I just wanted to do today was to show you how you could use StatCrunch to calculate your graphs, your box plots, your histograms, okay? Now, who would like me to show you how to plot the histogram of the data? Any takers there? Okay, Angelica, are you there?
Yeah,
Should we draw the histogram or not?
sure.
Okay, it's kind of a trick question in a way because you'll see what happens when we draw the histogram. So let's go ahead and draw the histogram. Okay. Histogram now is our function up here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to select our column of data again. It only has 4 values, right? It's a very small sample. And we've got some options here, but I'll skip over those. You'll figure out how to do those later when you start using this. Okay, we will mark the min and the median in our box plot. We use the basic color scheme here. And again, the x-axis for our histogram will be the scores or the data, which is GPA. And the x-axis will be frequency, because the histogram, if you've read the chapter, you know that the type is either a frequency histogram or a relative frequency histogram or a density. We won't get into densities until later. So my choice here is to calculate relative frequency. So we'll entitle the y-axis label relative frequency. And this will give us a plot of the frequency of the data value in the sample versus the GPA scale. Okay. And I'll choose vertical lines here, so we draw a grid. And now we can compute, and we get this graph here, okay? And what the histogram has done in StatCrunch is it's divided up the range of the data into what we would call classes, and it has plotted the relative frequency in this particular class. Let me do one other thing here, and that is to display, let's see, I want to display these frequency values above the bar, okay? And so here I get my frequency of the occurrence of the data in a particular bin or class. So in the bin you can see how the program has divided your x-axis into intervals of about 1/2, 1.5, starts at the min and goes to 2. It goes from 2 to 2.5, 2.5 to 3, 3 to 3.5, and 3.5 to 4. And since there is a very, very small sample here, you'll get gaps in your distribution or your histogram. Okay. So above the first bar here, which is the class that covers GPAs from 1.5 to 2, notice that in your data set, there's only one value. So the relative frequency would be 1/4, right? There's a total of 4 data points or data samples in your random sample, and 1/4 is 0.25. There's nothing in your second bin here from 2 to 2.5. Check your 4 values here. There's nothing, right? Okay, similarly, in the class from 2.5 to 3, you just get the 1, 2.8, so there's 1, and 1/4 is 1/4, or 0.25. And then in your last bin here from 3.5 to 4, you get 2 values, 3.65, 3.9, 2/4 is 1/2, and that'll give you what's known as a relative frequency histogram of the data, okay? We'll be using these plots quite a bit in our study of statistics in the course of the semester. Okay, well, we're almost done here. We've gone through several different ideas here. If you haven't read chapters 1, 2, and 3, please finish those up before the end of next week. And what I'll be doing is next week I'll be checking up on you in WebAssign to make sure that you've begun your WebAssign and that you have some results. to show me in your grade book. Okay, I want to be looking at the amount of time you spend and what your grades are for those assignments. So, you know, I don't want to pester you too much, but I need to keep tabs so that you don't leave it to the very end. That's happened in classes that I've taught in the past. And if a student gets a poor grade on their WebAssign, it could lead to a failing grade. So we want to guard against that. And so I'll be checking with you on those, on your progress, okay? Are there any last questions here before we end the session? Questions?
How's your day?
Any questions? Yes, go ahead. Any questions?
I was just asking, how's your day?
How is my day? Well, it's going fine. I'm in the process of upgrading my internet speed. And when the technician came here, he said my internet would go off for half the day. And I thought, okay, now what am I going to do? But luckily, I remembered that I can use my iPhone as a hotspot. So I'm running off the iPhone right now. And so hopefully next time we do this, I'll have a faster and better internet speed. Okay? Those of you who live around in this area, our internet speeds aren't very fast, are they? I think they're about 25 megabits per second, which is not very fast. But anyway, I'm supposed to get 50 after today. We'll see. Okay, guys, if there aren't any questions, have a good rest of your day. And I'll be checking on your WebAssign from time to time. And if you need to have a chat session, just send me an email. Maybe same day, and we can do it the same day. Or it would be better if you gave me, you know, maybe like a day's notice, and then we could set up the chat session for you. All right? Okay. What about the office hours? Can you make the office hours starting at 11:30? Or do you have conflicts? Any,
We have school until like 12:50.
so you won't be able to get on the internet to log into office hours. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right. Well, in that case, you know, we'll have to set up a maybe an individual time. So if you want to go one-on-one or two-on-one, whatever it is, we can arrange to do that. And typically that would be in the afternoon then, I think between 1 and 3. Okay. So I'll be available between 1 and 3 for you. And then occasionally we'll have an all-student meeting like today. Okay. But typically what I'll do is I'll try and canvass you. And if we have maybe a separate session to do problem solving, we can arrange that amongst ourselves, okay? But if you're good with WebAssign, you're moving along well in WebAssign, you're doing all your problems, getting high grades in WebAssign, you don't need to, you know, set up a session with me. You're good to go on your own, but I just want to make sure that you know that I'm there for you, okay? That I'm not going to abandon you, right? Okay. So we'll be in touch when you need to chat with me, and we'll go over the solutions to these problems. All right. Okay. So it's 1:47. I slipped over a little bit. So I'll end it there, and please stay in touch. Okay.
Wait, who's that behind you?
Who's behind me? Is there somebody behind me? Okay. All right, guys. See you next time. All right?
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye now.